about the noise, where legends rise. From the clouds to the crowd, this is Crowd, where Africa meets opportunity, where music meets magic.
So, hello everyone. My name is ADETAYO once again. It's nice to be here on another edition of the Crowd Virtual Seminar Series. The person I have on the show today is a Nigerian, but has spent a lot of time out of the country. He started his career at the age of 6, joining the choir, and by the age of 13, he had already become leader of the choir. By the age of 15, he picked up a guitar, and within 3 years, he has started to perform with the likes of Pasuma, the likes of Lagbaja, and so on and so forth. After that, he went to the Polytechnic Ibadan for a diploma in music technology, and then to the University of Lagos for a bachelor's in music. Since then, he has gone to London School of Music, getting a diploma, the way they call it in guitar, and then to Netherlands, where he got another diploma again in jazz music. And since then, he has performed the likes of Lagbaja, the likes of Tony Allen, the likes of Pasuma, and so on and so forth, with over nearly 2 decades of experience in the music industry as a session musician. My guest today is ADEDEJI. How has your journey been as a session musician since when you started till now? How has your journey been? What have you noticed? What insights have you gained in talking about an instrumentalist, a session musician, so to say, having performed with so many great luminaries and having traveled the world? So, how did that journey start?
I wouldn't necessarily call myself just a session musician. I'm an artist to start with, but sometimes, or I started out as a musician first, and in the church, as you have said, and then later. But I started out mostly as a backup singer when it comes to, if you want to talk about session musician in itself. And then I was, doing backup vocalist for the producer Julie King. And Julie King, as at that time, was producing a whole lot of Nigerian musicians, Imole Ayo, Pasuma Obesere, Benga Deusi, and the like. So once they needed back, because I started as a singer in the church. So that was my way into the studio session, and so there's a session. It's a different genre in itself, or a different section of a performing artist. There's a performing artist and there's a session guys. So if you're able to try, some people are really good at performances, but when you bring them into the studio, it's totally different. So, but when I picked up the guitar again, the guitar was just a tool for me to write my own songs and to arrange. But I quickly started to be called for that as well. So back in Nigeria, so I would do performances too. In both worlds. So I like to perform as much. I perform my own music more, and I perform with other people as well. Like you mentioned, a friend of mine was producing a song with Lagbaja, and then he asked me to come and play guitar on that. So I did that. I kind of auditioned for Lagbaja's band. I didn't play in his band, but I played with him on stage a few times. And Samuel Poso, I was his guitarist for a minute, and some other musicians, and in the churches as well. So the journey, like you've said, has been long, but it has been both worlds for me, either as a leader or as a session musician, as a guitarist, and a singer at the same time. So that's kind of the journey. The way it started would be from the church, like most people, from the church into the studio as a singer or backup guitarist, then playing live music with other musicians as well, but still getting to also produce or arrange or just drop my own quota, like with this there's a saxophonist in Nigeria, Sax T, used to call him. We did a song with him, Monifere, which my guitar line became a very nice hook for that because of the kind of music I've been listening to. So, with many other musicians that I get to work with, Sheon Waje, who's a great orchestrator and arranger for classical music and contemporary music in Nigeria as well, Ayoban Kole. So when they need a session player, they would call me to, play guitar or sing. Sometimes I get to do both works, so you get double money back in the day.
So what is the misconception that Nigerians, of course, you have been in Nigeria, you have waded through the trenches, to use that particular term. So, well, perhaps Nigerians, perhaps even people interacting with African session musicians from your journey through the world, what is the one misconception you think they have about session musicians, perhaps in Africa or perhaps everywhere?
I think it's not only in Nigeria or in general now. In the past, everybody has a different category. That's why when you have an album of great musicians, take Michael Jackson for instance, when Quincy Jones would produce Michael, he would pick up specific people that he knows that they can deliver what he's looking for or what he's thinking in his head. So that person is able to capture what the producer is trying to define for the artist. And it used to be like that as well. Like if you go to Decca Studio and all these recording studios, they have some people who are just hanging around there, but they also have people that their job is, they know that they can grab the music quickly, they can record it fast, they don't have to delay. This is back in the days where you have tape recorders and tape, so you cannot pause. You have to do it from the beginning to the end. If you make mistake, you take the same money and you have delayed so many people. So the craft and the dexterity of those people who used to work in the studios was very peculiar because they understood what kind of sound to use, how to log into the music, how to interpret. In our own case in Nigeria, that most of the things were oral, so it wasn't like really written down like with musical scores. It's a different ball game. So you rely on the ability of the musicians to reproduce what you're trying to explain to them. So that's usually the job of. Whereas in other climes, you have people who can either read the music, and that's why they call some people in, so they can read, so they play the music very fast. So these guys are session guys. That's what they actually call session guys. But in these days, that you also have your studios in your bedroom, everybody's a session person, but it doesn't make it not right. It just makes it different the way it works now. Whereas the performers are different. There are some people who are really good at performing, at touring. So those are the touring musicians. Those ones, their job is more to perform, to have a show, and to really, really, and it could be a band. It could be like a member of a group, or it could be a kind of group that plays together and then they support an artist to tour with him. So whereas the session musician is the guy that actually knows what fits and he's equipped enough. He has listened to a lot of music. He's equipped musically, sonically. He knows if you call, which is different in these days and age where sometimes the music kind of sounds the same. But still, you will find out the difference. Let me give you an interesting guitarist that I like in Nigeria. It took me a while because after you start to get into jazz and all that stuff and more contemporary music, it's very easy for you to discard the efforts of people who you don't really know what to do. So let us say take Fioke, for instance, who is one of the major guitar players in Nigerian Afrobeats, world, let us say. So when you hear some of the guitar lines that he creates in some of the popular songs, you can see how unique those things become and how important those lines are for the song in itself. So, and he's more like a session guy than, or Isikat, for instance. I'm talking about the younger guys who are the guys who are on the game in the games right now. So it's these are people that they know exactly what to put where and how to put what where. It could be a session based player. He knows not to overdo. It's not live music, so he plays less. The music needs this. And also the same thing with the guitarist. He's an orchestrator in the sense that he's an arranger. He has to arrange and put some specific line hooks into that specific music. So if a singer just brings a song, if you don't have the necessary players to accept the producer he knows what he wants. I'm talking more on the pop side of things now. For my music, is totally different. I arrange all my stuff the way I want it. So I know what the piano plays, what the bass plays. So I kind of tell them everything or write it out for them if they can read the music.
Thank you very much for that. So the next question I'm going to be asking you, because you did talk a bit about, the days of tapes and all that. But now we are talking about a digital age when everybody's a session musician. Because you have been in both worlds. You have been in the days of tape, in the days of the cassettes, in the days of the VCR, now in the days of CDs, now in the days of streaming. How has that changed? How has the craft changed for you in the digital age?
That's a very interesting question. So I remembered when we first started to record digitally, let us say, for me, it would be mid-90s or early 90s, something like that. This was when, so we used to record in Decca, and then we moved. The first recording we did, which was digital, for me was surprising. We used to have like 5 singers, for instance. Then I wasn't playing guitar, I was singing. And I realized that the producer said, ADEDEJI, so go in the studio now. So I would sing, instead of singing only one voice, which usually we did tenor, and then maybe sometimes the bass with the other singer. Now I had to do the alto, the treble. So then we were just 2 people sometimes and 3 people. So it reduced the number of people that it needed because it could overdub easily, overdub the vocals and then do this voice lays and stuff. So that was quite, it was daunting. It was a little hard because it's more work for you. But it was also interesting because that was useful for me in the future when I moved and then abroad. And I will do, even before I moved abroad, so I was able to just layer my voices myself so I can do all my, I will, when I'm in the studio, I just tell the producer, give me 12 channels for voices. And he was like, what do you need that for? I said, wait, and you'll see. So I'm able to layer all those voices because of that education. And that was the advantage of the digital world. That's in the inception of that stuff. Now, it also helps in the sense that in the past, like I said, if you made mistake, you cannot punch in. You have to stop or start from the beginning, or it's harder to do. But now you can take it bit by bit. You can stop. I personally am not a big fan of that. I still do it like the old school way. If I'm recording for someone, I would record true because I want to have that. I like those mistakes. I like the hiccups. I like the soul in the music. I like the directness. I don't like it to be clean, But in this age, you can get to make it really, really clean, but it can also become very mechanical in the sense that, it might lose the soul. However, it's always good to use the tools that is, like you said, now I can record at home by myself. I have my sound card, I have my laptop, and my instruments that I need to. You can actually be the whole orchestra, and you can get to listen to it back, which are the advantages of the digital days, let us say. Also, in terms of streaming or getting your music out there, it became much easier. Of course, those are the advantages. The disadvantage now is like it's kind of saturated with a whole lot of sounds, and it's difficult to actually tell. And then you have to, compete with too many people at the same time. Some people don't even have business being in music to start with, But it depends on how you see it. You have to see the cup either half full or half empty. It's easy, but it's also a different kind of muscle you have to exercise. So I'm not saying it's easy in the sense that one was better than the other, because even now you have to, it's difficult, when you see people who really know how to use the tool, like the door that they say, then they really use it. I'm amazed with some of the young guys, the way they use it. They use a lot of effects. I'm like, well, how did you do that? So they are able to get deeper into those stuff than I would. And I have to learn that as well. So
Now, there's a question I need to chip in at this point, and it actually led me to you said something around youngsters, like young people who have to do what you call who have to now who know those new things that you didn't know or you don't know that you have to now learn from them and all that. Now, you started from Africa. You started from Africa, and then again, as far as you are concerned, you change yours many times. You have so many certificates. You have so much body of work that shows that you're a big deal as far as the session musician is concerned in your own way.
I tried.
So you started from Africa, you started from Lagos, being around Africa, work with African people, then you moved abroad. So what do you think people who are perhaps who are now where you started from, who also want to blow, who perhaps don't necessarily want to move abroad, or who just wants to maybe stay in Africa, build like a global brand just like yours? What, of course, do you think they should be looking at? What is it they are missing?
Yes, first you have to define what blow is for you. So everybody has a different definition of what blow is. A blow could be you want to make $1 billion stream. A blow could be you want to impact the next generation. That's a blow for you. A blow. So you have to define what it is for you first. Now, coming to what I would think a lot of that is missing first is the apprenticeship. Like I told you, it's very easy for me to say I'm self-taught, but I am self-taught to an extent, but I'm also not self-taught. And half of the things that I started to use when I moved abroad, I already learned it from Nigeria. But there are things that I was studying in Nigeria by myself or by people that I surround myself with that it wasn't for Nigeria as at that moment. And I didn't even know why I'm acquiring those knowledge, but they became useful when I went abroad, just like the layers of voices that I told you about. So apprenticeship, so that's something that I feel like it's really missing. A lot of people are rushing to become masters without serving. And that's a big, it's you can blow fast, but then it can affect how long you can stay in the game. I've been in music for more than 30 years, you understand? And I've been doing this both home and abroad. And I've been able to, balance what I'm doing, and everywhere I am, I'm representing my country, I'm representing my continent how best I can, And one thing was very evident when I moved abroad. They knew that they realized that I know my stuff. And then I started saying that, oh yeah, I knew it, but I learned it from home. You understand? I learned from abroad virtually by tapes, by watching, by studying, by researching. But I also learned apprenticeship by working with artists. I produced a Fuji artist when I was 16 years old. And by producing him, Pasuma also heard his production. And another artist, Top Monotica, was calling me, oh, can you produce my song too? I was 16 or 17 years old. So for me, those were the schools that I got into, that it worked for me. So I think apprenticeship is very important. And now the artist himself is like what I said from the beginning, or the musician, I say artist, but the musician who wants to be an instrumentalist, a session guy, has to equip yourself, learn the theory if you can. And if you cannot learn the theory, open your ears. Like you can learn a lot of things by ear, but you have to be very strict, very disciplined about it. And then define what's your, not style necessarily, depending on what. It's very easy to make it broad, but it's also difficult. For a guitarist, what he needs to learn will be different. Maybe he wants to learn chops, he wants to learn chords, he wants to learn licks, he wants to learn how the chords work, he wants to really listen. Maybe he's a metal or a rock guitarist or an highlife guitarist who wants to play, or a Malian guitar player. So you have to learn those little styles. They're not little, but those styles, you want to know how Afrobeat guitar works. And for you to learn how Afrobeat guitar works, I'm talking about Fela's Afrobeat now. You have to listen to Fela, you have to listen to Femi, the people before you. For you to listen to how Afrobeats guitar work, which is the modern guys, because it's also different. You have to listen, study it, and this is how this guitarist, this is what this person is playing. So for a guitarist, it's different. For a piano player, it's different. For a bass player, it's different. For a backup singer, it's different. So you have to really define what you want to do, if you want to be an artist or you want to be a session guy. So, and then follow that path. Apprentice, work with people that are better than you. Try to learn from the masters, whoever they are. It's very crucial. It's very difficult in our climes, I know, because when there's a lot of masters that they hide from the student, they just need almost only most of them who are they're not really looking to really impact. But if you can find a master that can impact, go for him and then see how far that person can take you. And then be honest with yourself. What does this thing mean to you? What does blow mean to you? Learning an instrument, whatever instrument it is, piano or guitar. I know a lot of singers in Nigeria that they don't play piano. You have to learn the keyboard because it opens up a lot of palettes for you. And then when you move abroad, if you want to work with people abroad, because there's a language, music is a language. If you're not able to speak the language with the people that are not from where you're from, then you're going to have a problem communicating what you want to do. So they might just change your music to whatever they feel it is. So
I like the answers you gave to the questions about apprenticeships because, interestingly, part of the reason for this seminar series, why you are here today, and what we do at Crowd, is that we create like a community where people can actually come in and learn skills, where they can train. And so you're not working with somebody teaching you or somebody trying to make a servant out of you. You're actually working with real trainings from real professionals. That's part of why we are having again this seminar series where we have professionals like you come to tell people about their experiences. When our community members see this, it's an opportunity for them to at least be conscious of the fact that they need to train. And speaking about community, it will lead me to the next question I want to ask you. You started from the church, interestingly enough. And so you understand the importance of community in the development of an artist or maybe a session artist. But I just want a little bit of more explanation from you on the importance of community to you as a session artist, since of course you are here as a session artist in the capacity of a session artist.
I mean, music in itself is communal. You have to do it together. How boring it would be if you have to just play by yourself. Even if you're a solo artist, at some point you have to play for the audience. So which means learning music and playing together. So everything that I told you that I learned at home, it wasn't like I learned it by myself. I had friends that we were experimenting together. We were practicing. I had friends that we rented an apartment and we were learning. We had a drummer, we had two guitarists, trumpet player. If I mention them now, some of them are quite big. Some of them are even all over the world right now. And I remember those days of humble beginning, we call it, even after playing shows, whatever we did wrong in the shows, we come back home, we talk about it, we try to fix it, we rehearse together, we practice together. So all those things, it's the fastest way, to learn. And then when you build a huge community, like of musicians, of players, of tech guys, but everybody's goal is just to flag that or to fly that flag, let us say, of ours and see how we are able to also impact the next generation, which is something that we lost towards the at some point. It was more, we are more competitive than actually complementary. We're not complementing each other. Everybody just wants to be leaders, and that affected how much of a community spirit we will have. But as Africans, it's very natural, You know how many people that they just go to their sister's place. Oh, let us give a wedding, for instance. There are weddings that you're not invited to. You just go to a friend and say, I'm not wedding, okay, come with us. And then you just go to the wedding together. Nobody will stop you. They'll say, who's this one? So it's very natural for us. It's in our DNA, that communal spirit is there. So it has to be in the music. It is also why Afrobeats is winning, because they are all collaborating with each other. And as opposed to what happened in the past. That's what I meant, People are bringing back collaboration. So that was lost a little bit. Anyway, so it's really important. It's not something that we can really take lightly. So we have to really work together. As musicians, you have to come together once in a while, maybe it's every Sunday or whenever, to play together and jam together and just find time to just hang, talk about music, and then try to see how you can create something. And then whoever you see that has that stardom features, because not everybody's going to be a star. So if you see the person who has that stardom feature, do everything to support that person, push them up, and then hope that you are being pushed while you're doing that as well.
Again, thank you very much for that bit of insight. We are almost at the final stretch now, but I just have a few more questions to go. And the next question I'm going to be asking you is about now success for you. And I think you did mention something around defining what makes you blue. And I'm a bit afraid I'm going to be making it a bit personal for you now. So what was your definition of success? I'm sure you probably didn't even think about this. You were just content to say, okay, I just want to make something of this. But what was your definition of success when you started this? And how has that changed over the course of the 30 years that you've actually been in this music business?
I found out that music was always the thing for me. So I never really had to do anything else except music. But from inception, I never saw it as a path to be, not necessarily to be rich, but to be comfortable. It has always been there. It wasn't like, okay, I want to play music so I can blow, I can make money. That wasn't the reason why I came into it. I felt like it's a spiritual part. It's something that God wants me to do. It's why I'm here. Now, how I apply it is different. It doesn't. I realized over the years that I don't have to make it gospel music. It's already gospel the way it should be. So you can actually serve God in that capacity as well without necessarily being a gospel musician. So the moment because there was a conflict between those two sides for me, the moment I realized that, it changed the way I approach music. So, and the way I approach my career in itself. So, and the goal has always been the same, to just do what you are here for. And then I always believe that every other thing kind of fits into it, the money side, the comfortability side, and God's been great to me. So the way things work themselves out for me has been amazing, and so that helps my part in itself. So it hasn't really changed as much, even before I left Nigeria. That was the goal, I wanted to play big stages. I wanted to bring Nigerian music to a certain virtuoso level, contemporary music now, because the only virtuoso level that our music has been was either if we were playing classical music, where you had the Ayoban Collins, the Fela Show and Days, and the TK Phillips, and then the people that took it a little bit further were people like Fela and Sonny Ade and then Lagbaja to an extent, and then Femi Kuti. So I kind of felt like I had a part. I have my own portion of this that I need to do as an artist, as a creative, and that has been the goal even before I left Nigeria. So when I was writing music, some of the songs I'm still performing, I wrote it in Nigeria. Now with my musical knowledge and everything else, I was able to shape it the way I hear it, the way I want it, and everywhere we go, every time they hear that my musicians that play with me in Nigeria, that I'm bringing abroad, when we go on tour here and they see them, people are amazed because they hear different kind of Nigerian musicians. They're like, "Whoa, so Nigerian musicians can play like this. The piano player is a jazz pianist. The drummer, he can play, is skillful. The trumpet player is a killer. Like the girls, the singers, they're all scholars. They studied music. The percussionist is one of the top." So I took, how do I say it? I took professionals. They were like some of the best musicians in Nigeria music industry that I get to tour with. And that was the goal. Even though I'm the leader, even though I'm writing my music, I always wanted. So that has always been the goal from day one, to get all these people just to showcase the Nigerian talent as much as I can.
So now, as I said, final stretch. So this will just be like the final question before we call it a day. Looking at the next 5 to 10 years, you talked about how Africa has become global, the likes of whiskey and Davido's. And then the interesting thing now is that Africa is also now the youngest continent, which means for example, our own estimates are crowd that we are having almost 1 billion listeners who will be Africans. And so it's the kind of music that those people listen to that will actually start to dominate. So now, with that kind of statistics in mind, the fact that Africa is becoming global, whether we like it or not in mind, I just want to say, so what do you see now to see in the future of Africa? So how would you advise that perhaps people who want to be like you, or people who want to take their careers, wherever it is, whether they're session musicians or producers or managers or lawyers or whatever it is they are, who want to go from a local stage to a global stage, who wants to play at global levels too, and push out the Nigerian culture the way you described it? What do you think they should be doing?
For me, it wouldn't be only from the side of the younger ones. It would also be from the side of the older ones. We have to diversify, because we don't want it to be another oil where that's the only thing that we are good at. So what I call the pure water effect, like when people started to sell pure water, all of a sudden pure water is the most lucrative business in Nigeria for a minute, and then what happens after? So I think for the youth though, that's what I said in one of my answers, that you have to define what it is you really want. If music is just a means to an end, for somebody like me, for me music is very spiritual, it's very sacred. So I wouldn't advise that. I'm not a big respecter of somebody who music is just a means to an end for. But if music is the thing that this is what I'm good at, this is why I'm here, then you have to go all in. We have to now develop, like you've said, we have to develop the tech side of things. We have to really develop the school. The school has to start implementing a structure. There has to be a structure that supports the African music and the knowledge of African music in itself. Otherwise, like you've said, in the next 10 years, if I'm hearing now, it's very funny when we start to call people like Two-Face legends. They are legends for different reasons, but the legends have to be. So what I'm trying to say not in this instance is that we tend to forget the older people so fast, even though they are not old enough to be forgotten. And in so doing, we are losing our culture and what should be our tradition, what should be the things that we hold on to, what should be the roots of what makes us. Half of the guys that are blowing up now, they are using the music of the old. You understand? But the old are the people that we have kind of discarded. So we have to make it a culture. But this would only happen if we are teaching history of Nigerian music, history of African music, how those things work, and really have an in-depth knowledge of our music, that we are able to develop it and get it to the next level, so that these children or the people who are coming in the future, they have something to hold on to, something that is really theirs, not something that we have copied from abroad. So for new creatives and young creatives, Africa is the future. It's also the past. It's also the present. So we are lucky to be Africans. Now, how do we take advantage of those things? Those are the questions we have to start asking each other. And that can only happen if we teach our history, if we have, we go deep into what makes us what makes us Nigerians, what makes us Africa, and then start to place ourselves in position. And for musicians who really want to do that, they have to also go that they have to understand the music. We cannot look at Africa with the how do you say it, with the sight of Europe or America. So it's kind of dilutes, and it doesn't give us the strength of what we do. I'm doing an African music, even though there's jazz in it, there's funk in it, there's soul in it, but the core of my music is Africa. And then I'm still going back home to do that every time. The people who truly want it, even if you don't blow, you will know you have done your best. And I think it's more satisfying than anything in the world.
Great bit of insight. I want to appreciate you again, Adetayo Adedeji, anonymously as ADEDEJI. It's been a very wonderful time with you on the session today. So thank you very much for coming. We appreciate you, and we hope
Thanks
that
for having me.
this is success in your endeavors.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you.
So it's another edition of the Crowd Virtual Industry Seminar Series, and we've been talking with Mr. ADEDEJI Adetayo, part of a community of music industry professionals. And that is part of what we offer our Crowd. Our Crowd, we create a platform for music industry professionals who want to take their careers from local level to global level. On our platform, you can put in your work, put in your projects, create your profile, and then share it on your social media. And it provides a very valuable tech real estate. So why go through the journey of building your career with tech as a music industry professional when we can do it for you at Crowd? Even beyond that, we also offer trainings as a music industry professional. When you profile on platforms, you get access to trainings. And most importantly, you get access to a community of music industry professionals who you can collaborate with, who you can build with. And the music industry professionals, the Crowd platform has varied. We have lawyers, we have producers, we have all kinds of music industry professionals that can be beneficial to you. Until I come your way again with another episode of the Crowd Virtual Industry Seminar Series, my name is Adebuti Adebayo. Visit our website, www.crowd.com, and follow us, Crowd Africa, on social media. Once again, I appreciate you for listening to another episode of this seminar series. Do have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.